The question of whether there's a vertical requirement for a readily accessible main disconnect as per National Electrical Code Section 225.32 brings up the broader topic of equipment working space. While Section 225.32 itself mandates that the disconnecting means shall be readily accessible, it doesn't explicitly define a vertical limit. To find guidance on this, one needs to delve into the requirements for equipment working space, which are outlined primarily in NEC Article 110.26. Article 110.26, titled Spaces about Electrical Equipment, is dedicated to ensuring sufficient and safe working clearances around electrical equipment. It addresses not only the horizontal distances but also the vertical height and depth of the working space. Firstly, let's clarify what readily accessible means. According to the NEC definition, readily accessible means capable of being reached quickly for operation, renewal, or inspections, without requiring those to whom ready access is requisite to climb over or remove obstacles or to resort to portable ladders, and so forth. This definition implies certain vertical limitations, as climbing over obstacles or using a portable ladder to reach a disconnect would violate the readily accessible requirement. Secondly, the working space requirements around electrical equipment are dependent on voltage levels. For typical residential and small commercial installations with voltages to ground of 150 volts or less, the depth of the working space in front of the equipment is generally less stringent than for higher voltage systems. However, the height and width requirements remain critical. Thirdly, Article 110.26 addresses the height of working space. It states that the working space shall be clear and extend from the grade, floor, or platform to the height specified in 110.26e. In many cases, this height is a minimum of 6.5 feet, or 1.98 meters, or the height of the equipment, whichever is greater. This means that the space directly in front of the electrical panel must be clear of obstructions up to at least 6.5 feet. Fourthly, 110.26e delves into the specific headroom requirements. It mandates that the minimum headroom of working spaces around service equipment, switchgear, panel boards, or motor control centers shall be 6.5 feet high unless the equipment is installed in existing dwelling units and doesn't exceed 200 amps. In such cases, the headroom can be less than 6.5 feet. However, this exception is very specific and doesn't generally apply to exterior installations or new construction. Fifthly, the presence of very heavy trim, as mentioned in the original scenario, introduces another layer of complexity. If this trim obstructs the required working space, both horizontally and vertically, it would violate NEC 110.26. The trim could be considered an obstacle that impedes readily accessible operation of the disconnect. Sixthly, the mounting height of the panel itself influences the accessibility of the main disconnect. While the NEC doesn't specify an exact maximum height for the disconnect handle, it must be readily reachable by a person of average height without the use of tools or portable ladders. Mounting the panel a foot below where I would normally mount it might seem insignificant, but it could push the disconnect handle closer to the ground, potentially making it less accessible for some individuals. Seventhly, consider the Americans with Disabilities Act, or ADA, guidelines. While the NEC doesn't explicitly reference ADA, adhering to ADA standards for reach ranges can contribute to making the disconnect truly readily accessible. ADA standards typically specify reach ranges between 15 inches, or 381 millimeters, and 48 inches, or 1219 millimeters, above the finished floor for operable parts. Although these guidelines are primarily for accessibility in public accommodations and commercial facilities, they represent a good practice to follow, especially if the installation is in a location that may be accessed by individuals with disabilities. Eighthly, the specific requirements might also be influenced by local amendments to the NEC. Some jurisdictions may have adopted stricter interpretations or additional requirements regarding the height of disconnects. Therefore, it's crucial to consult with the local electrical inspector or authority having jurisdiction, or URGE, to ensure compliance with all applicable codes and regulations. Ninthly, the equipment working space extends beyond just the area directly in front of the panel. It includes the width and depth of the space, ensuring that there's enough room for electricians to safely perform maintenance, repairs, and inspections. This means that any obstructions, whether vertical or horizontal, within this working space must be removed or mitigated. Tenthly, let's discuss practical considerations. While the NEC provides minimum requirements, it's always advisable to exceed those requirements when possible to enhance safety and usability. For example, mounting the panel at a height that allows for comfortable operation of the disconnect by a wide range of individuals, regardless of their height or physical abilities, is a best practice. 11thly, the supply drop feeding the panel also impacts the installation. The service drop must have sufficient clearance from ground level and other obstructions, per NEC 230.24. While this section primarily addresses the clearance of the service conductors themselves, it indirectly affects the location of the panel because the panel must be located in a manner that allows for a safe and compliant connection to the service drop. 12thly, the type of enclosure used for the panel affects the overall installation. If the panel is installed outdoors, it must be housed in a weatherproof enclosure that is rated for the environment. The enclosure should be sized appropriately to accommodate the panel and all associated wiring and equipment. The choice of enclosure can influence the mounting height and the overall accessibility of the disconnect. 13thly, consider the long-term maintenance and serviceability of the installation. The location of the panel should allow for easy access for future repairs, replacements, and upgrades. Mounting the panel in a location that is difficult to reach or that is prone to damage can increase the cost and complexity of future maintenance. 14thly, regarding the specific scenario of mounting the panel below heavy trim, one must evaluate whether the trim obstructs the working space required by 110.26. If the trim reduces the headroom below the required 6.5 feet, or if it impedes access to the disconnect handle, then the installation would not be compliant. The trim would need to be modified or removed to provide the necessary clearance. 15thly, remember that the primary goal of the NEC is to ensure the safety of persons and property. The requirements for readily accessible disconnects and equipment working space are designed to minimize the risk of electrical shock, fire, and other hazards. Compliance with these requirements is not just a matter of adhering to the code, but also a matter of protecting the safety of those who will be working on or interacting with the electrical system. 16thly, consider the use of signage. Clearly labeling the main disconnect and the equipment it serves can help to ensure that it is easily located and operated in an emergency. The signage should be durable and weather resistant, especially in outdoor installations. 17thly, it's worth noting that the NEC is updated every 3 years, and interpretations of the code can evolve over time. Therefore, it's essential to stay current with the latest edition of the NEC and to consult with qualified electrical professionals to ensure that your installations are compliant and safe. 18thly, the concept of equipment working space applies not only to the front of the electrical panel but also to the sides and rear, if access is required for maintenance or inspection. The specific dimensions of the working space depend on the voltage to ground and the conditions of the installation, as outlined in NEC Table 110.26a. 19thly, another factor to consider is the potential for physical damage to the panel. If the panel is located in an area where it is likely to be struck by vehicles or other equipment, it should be protected by barriers or other means. This can affect the mounting height and the overall accessibility of the disconnect. 20thly, the installation should be inspected and approved by a qualified electrical inspector before being placed into service. The inspector will verify that the installation complies with all applicable codes and regulations, including the requirements for readily accessible disconnects and equipment working space. 21stly, let's discuss the implications of using a remote control disconnect. In some cases, it may be permissible to use a remote control disconnect to satisfy the readily accessible requirement. However, the remote control disconnect must be clearly labeled and readily accessible itself, and it must meet all other applicable requirements of the NEC. 22ndly, in addition to the height requirements, the width of the working space is also important. The working space must be at least 30 inches, or 762 mm wide, or the width of the equipment, whichever is greater. This ensures that there is enough room for electricians to safely work on the equipment. 23rd, the depth of the working space is determined by the voltage to ground and the conditions of the installation, as specified in NEC Table 110.26a. The depth of the working space must be sufficient to allow electricians to safely work on the equipment without being exposed to electrical hazards. 24th, consider the ambient temperature around the panel. If the panel is installed in an area where the ambient temperature is excessively high or low, it could affect the performance and reliability of the equipment. The panel should be installed in a location where the ambient temperature is within the manufacturer's recommended operating range. 25th, the panel should be securely mounted to a suitable supporting structure. The supporting structure must be strong enough to support the weight of the panel and all associated equipment. The mounting hardware should be appropriate for the type of supporting structure. 26th, all wiring connections to the panel should be made in accordance with the NEC and the manufacturer's instructions. The wiring should be properly sized and protected against overcurrent. The connections should be tight and secure to prevent overheating and electrical hazards. 27th, the panel should be properly grounded and bonded in accordance with the NEC. Grounding and bonding are essential for protecting against electrical shock and minimizing the risk of fire. The grounding and bonding connections should be made in accordance with NEC Article 250. 28th, the panel should be protected against moisture and corrosion, especially in outdoor installations. The enclosure should be weatherproof and the wire and connections should be sealed to prevent moisture from entering the panel. 29th, the panel should be protected against physical damage from vehicles, equipment, or other objects. Barriers, bollards, or other protective measures may be necessary to prevent damage to the panel. 30th, the panel should be located in an area where it is easily visible and accessible for inspection and maintenance. The area around the panel should be well lit and free of obstructions. 31st, the panel should be located in an area where it is not exposed to excessive vibration or noise. Vibration and noise can damage the equipment and make it difficult to troubleshoot problems. 32nd, the panel should be located in an area where it is not exposed to flammable or explosive materials. Flammable or explosive materials can create a fire hazard and should be kept away from electrical equipment. 33rd, the panel should be located in an area where it is not exposed to corrosive chemicals or fumes. Corrosive chemicals and fumes can damage the equipment and cause it to fail. 34th, the panel should be located in an area where it is not exposed to excessive dust or dirt. Dust and dirt can accumulate on the equipment and cause it to overheat or malfunction. 35th, the panel should be located in an area where it is not exposed to direct sunlight. Direct sunlight can heat up the equipment and cause it to overheat or malfunction. 36th, the panel should be located in an area where it is not exposed to excessive wind. Wind can damage the equipment and make it difficult to work on. 37th, the panel should be located in an area where it is not exposed to snow or ice. Snow and ice can accumulate on the equipment and cause it to malfunction. 38th, the panel should be located in an area where it is not exposed to rodents or insects. Rodents and insects can damage the equipment and create a safety hazard. 39th, the panel should be located in an area where it is not exposed to vandalism or theft. Vandalism and theft can damage the equipment and create a safety hazard. 40th, the panel should be located in an area where it is not exposed to unauthorized access. Unauthorized access can create a safety hazard and should be prevented. In conclusion, while NEC 225.32 requires the main disconnect to be readily accessible, determining compliance involves considering equipment working space requirements outlined in Article 110.26, ADA guidelines, local amendments, and practical considerations to ensure safety and usability.